Going live in three, two, one, and hey, we're live. It's good to be back as my first live stream, I think, since my weekly ones that I was doing back in 2021, over a year ago, as long ago as that was. But thank you for checking it out, and this is going to be my first monthly update of the daedalOS OS, which possibly some people might know me for that are here now because I've been kind of blasting it all over the interwebs as much as I can to kind of get the word out that it's been released now, and I've been working on it as well, which is why I thought it was time for an update because I've been taking some feedback. A lot of it was around speed, so I've done some interesting performance improvements that I think have helped. Some of the people that are having speed issues, I actually don't think I could help with what I've done because they just in general are going to have issues no matter what I do. Not that it's on them, but just that there is some level of requirement to the website that I'm never going to be able to get beyond, I think. But I think I managed to do quite a few things to try to improve it, including something I did today that I'd like to get into as well. Um, and I think I didn't really mention it too much in the title, but I did mention one thing in the title that we could get into first, and that was what is the title of this video, anyways? Just for as a reminder, and hopefully the stream's working okay. It looks like it is, but it's a live stream, so feel free to throw a message in the chat. If you're viewing this after the fact, feel free to throw a message in the comments. And I'm always up for any comments, chats, anything like that. This is going to be a quicker one, this update. I'm not going to be doing code or anything like that. But I'm going to go through a couple things that I've done and some updates, that kind of thing. So yeah, so the title is React 18, Three.js, and Markdown. And those are some things where I've done some major changes in. So one of them being React 18. If you guys know about React 18, guys and girls, and whoever happens to be watching, completely inclusive. So I'm the more the merrier. But whoever might be watching, React has this new feature called automatic batching, and I'm going to show you it in the browser here. So this is kind of just a proposal from one of the head honcho folks, but automatic batching for fewer renders in React 18. And if you kind of go over this and see the idea of it, basically it's just a perfect scenario for what I've got here. Because let's say you open something like this, the way my code was and still partly is slightly inefficient in that a lot of things happen here, and there's a lot of update this, put this here, boom, 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 and typically it worked pretty decent. And I've tried to Memo-wise stuff and keep things from re-rendering, but there is a certain order to things, especially with this fake file system that's asynchronous as well. So that's where this React automatic batching, I think, has helped quite a bit, is that it's really done a much smarter job of rendering things on the screen. And I've almost noticed it immediately that things were faster. It did require a little bit of tweaking. A few of my components kind of almost had like race conditions where it was almost like they were too fast, honestly. It's not the case now, but things are going pretty smooth, as you can see here. This has all my updates right now on my current website, and I'll get into some of my updates in a minute here. So yeah, React 18 was one of the first ones. That's a release candidate version right now. It's not the full-on release version yet. Right now, React is still at 17 officially, but they're beyond alpha, they're beyond beta, they're up to this release candidate level, which is pretty close to the fact where maybe in a few months it'll be out. By the way, I'm drinking a red liquid today. It's Canada Dry ginger ale, one of the red flavor. So what's the next cool thing that I did? This is the today thing I did that I wanted to get into, which is Offscreen Canvas for Three.js. So a lot of the details don't matter here. I'm not going to get too deep into the code, but here's the basic cool thing. So before it was doing this, where it was loading just wallpaper, this still happens, but one new feature is that I check here and see if there's this thing called Offscreen Canvas. And the Offscreen Canvas, unfortunately right now, only works with Chrome. Chromium, so like Opera, Edge. Also works on mobile too, which is pretty cool. The Samsung one as well. So it's only a couple. The Safaris and the Firefoxes of the world, I don't give a beep about Internet Explorer anymore. No one does. But the idea behind Offscreen Canvas is it can make a completely new thread off of the main thread to render something that would typically be rendered to a canvas, like this wallpaper. And I basically found a way to do it with the code. To say it wasn't hard would be inaccurate. It actually was kind of tricky. I had to change things within the Vanta Waves source code as well, but this is my code here that I'm talking about. So here you see here's where I used a worker That's where you kind of put it to the worker thread off of the main thread, and you give it the canvas. You say, here's that canvas element. I'm going to give it to another thread. You go do some magic with it. And if that's not supported, you get the normal behavior. And all I've really done is just taken the normal behavior and put it in a separate JavaScript file that's essentially a worker. And they're still a little bit separate because of the way that I've written my worker code. It's very important that there's a separation between the files. So there's a little bit of repetitiveness in the code, unfortunately. You can see here that I've also decided to get rid of the color logic for my wallpaper. The color still changes, but I've moved the color logic into the Vanta Waves wallpaper effect itself. And it's a little more efficient that way, and then it's also made it so that the worker and the non-worker version don't have to worry about changing the color all the time. That's now just built into Waves, essentially, my version of Waves. So this became a lot smaller. This went from that, which wasn't huge anyways. This was the color piece. This is the loading of waves. Now it's just very simple like that. Just load straight up waves. And it's got that load files piece. So the way I replace load files is that within a web worker, you have a thing called load scripts, actually. Is it called load scripts? I just made that up. Probably not true. Well, it's import script, right? So with import scripts essentially works like the load scripts that I made, where you can dynamically within the browser in a worker load a script. So that essentially made it possible to work exactly the same to load Three.js and the Vanta Waves script. I updated a few types. This is here where I've done that color cycling now. Now the color changing happens in Waves. You see here, before you would pass the element and then a canvas would be put in it. But the other alternative way now that I've created two different possible types of renders. The other one is that you give it a canvas, and I also give it the device pixel ratio, because that's something that Vanta Waves needed, but it comes from the window object, and workers don't have access to the window object, basically. So I made that one, and then here's the worker, the basics of it. This part's TypeScript. You can ignore this for the moment. The worker's quite basic. It just goes straight into its listener. It gets a message. If the message is to initialize, it loads those two files, the Three.js and the Vanta. Here it's using that import script I was saying. It has to add the location to the front of it. And then here, if it's not initialization, it's going to be passing that canvas. So I get that in the device pixel ratio. I have to do a little bit of repetitiveness here in the config. I can't import in the same way because of the way it's bundled and the way that I build the worker dynamically. But that's okay, it's very minor. So I rebuild the configs here once again. And basically this code looks just like how that other code is, so there's nothing else to it. I had to make this a little different. I couldn't use ... because that's a spread, object spread, and then in Webpack was converting that to a function to be more compatible. But the worker wouldn't support that Webpacking, so... Anyways, I think that's about it. What else was there here? Oh yes, here's where I actually create the off-screen canvas. I basically just make a real canvas, and then because I know this only runs if you've already checked that off-screen canvas. So you make a canvas element, just like you would in JavaScript, and then the tricky thing here is this. Transfer control to off-screen. You have to do that to the canvas. Also, you have to set the height and width. So I set the height and width to a container element that I pass in. I put the canvas into the container element, and then I say, transfer control now. And that's when I pass it to that worker. That's it, basically. So I'd like to show that in action, because I'm pretty proud of it when it works. It looks kind of neat. I mean, it's working now. One little caveat I've noticed is that it doesn't resize properly. So you'll see here now when I'm increasing it, it looks like it's resizing, but I've actually got it so that the canvas percentage will increase. The old way, when I would resize the window, it would actually re-render the size of the canvas. But this new way, I haven't found a way to actually resize an off-screen canvas. I actually get an error saying you can't resize an off-screen canvas, so I'm not sure what to do there yet. We'll see. I'll leave that to whatever happens. But that's okay, because if you refresh, then it's back to the proper size. So every time I press refresh, there you go. Now it's the correct size. And if I make it smaller, that doesn't really affect the visuals. But if I refresh, but if I make it bigger, you get a little bit of pixelization. But to see that it's running in different threads now, and I've also got the clock in a different thread. That's another thing I should tell you. So if we go into sources here, And then you'll see at the top, it'll say threads. And I've actually got it so it can say the name thread. So you can see there's the main thread, there's the clock thread, and there's the wallpaper thread. And if you go over here, you can see them too. So you can see here the clock thread, and you can see the clock code for it. If I make it prettier here, that's the code that runs the clock. And then if you go into the wallpaper thread, it's got the two files, the Vanta Three.js and the Vanta Waves file. Plus it's got my code, which loads all that config stuff and gets it going using that same exact idea. So yeah, so that's how that one works, and I've noticed an improvement. And yeah, at the end of this video, we'll do some speed tests where I'll show you that the speed's actually pretty decent right now. We could actually do a speed test here locally without any snafus using Lighthouse. Let's try that first. So here's Lighthouse. Let me switch the console to be like this. This is a little easier for everyone to see. There we go. So this is Lighthouse. It's something inside Chrome that allows you to test performance. So what are we gonna do here? In network, we got disabled cache. So we go into Lighthouse again. Where did Lighthouse go? Lighthouse. We got performance. We don't have a progressive web app right now, so I'm not even going to check that. Everything else we'll check. We'll do for desktop mode, and let's generate a report. Now, in a best case scenario, we could get a pretty high number here, but let's see what happens. That's a pretty high number. So we basically got 100% all the way. It's nice when that happens. And that's been happening more now since I've done this off-screen canvas. It's very, like, if you look at the load times here, they're ridiculously low. So it's a pretty fast website. I actually have a decently fast computer, so I have a feeling you could probably get lower numbers here for sure if you tried. But I'm pretty happy with them. And we'll try a few of these online tests because you'll see that they don't get 100s necessarily, but it's cool when you can get the 100s. What was next on my performance improvements? Right, some other ones I wanted to show, just some little code improvements here that I did, were things like the right-click menu. So when you right-click a file here, or I right-click this, or let's say I open, where's the folder that has a lot of stuff? These stream notes here. So there's quite a few stream notes here. It takes a bit of time anyways to open. But you see when I right-click one, how you get that menu. Or if I hover over, there's a tooltip. It doesn't show in my streaming software, but a little tooltip popped up for me. Those two things I basically was generating for every file when you open the folder. And now what I did here, this is the one for the right-click menu. I basically just made it dynamic. Before here, you see it was just making the items right away. Just map them right away. Now it turned it into a callback, where you have to actually run get items for it to make the items. So the difference there, and same with the tooltip. But the tooltip, I actually made it on hover, because you only show the tooltip when you hover over something. So what I did is when you hover over it, that's when I do the work of actually making it. Because before you open a folder with 100 things, it has to make 100 of these menus and 100 tooltips. You're not going to hover over every one of them. You're not going to right-click every one of them. So it was very inefficient. That was another thing I was doing. But again, React was very fair with me. So it was still very fast. It's not like, oh, that took seconds. You know, it still took less than a second. But I've made it much more efficient by having it take even less time. Next thing I wanted to mention, you can see it here in front of you with the folder that's open, is, let me close this for now. This folder here, they've got a new icon for an app called Marked. And Marked is basically something called Mark.js, or I don't know if they just call themselves Marked. But it's basically a parser for Markdown. So these files before, it used to be the behavior, they would open in Monaco. So it would look like this. This is stream notes that I have. So this would be typical stream notes. But if you see here as a code version, it looks a little codey. It looks too much like code. So I don't know what file that was, but they all look the same. So now we open it in Marked, and you'll see you get much more of a nice like web page version of it, a Markdown web generated version. And when you click it, it'll open the links. That's gone now, I guess. Oh yeah, that's irrelevant then, I guess. That branch is gone. But these still work, so that's cool. That's when I didn't have a beard. I shaved it. So that was another big thing, was this app, Marked app. That was another cool one. And then another thing I wanted to get into was something I added to the README, which was these mentions, because I thought these were pretty cool. So these are some news articles that it turns out my app was mentioned in, which I thought was kind of neat. I've noticed that this one is just an English version of one of these other ones, so I'm just gonna focus on these four. But we got, I didn't want to click any of them yet. So I did translations on all of them. So this one's from Czech Republic. This one's from France. This one's from Slovakia, I think, and this one is from Spain, I want to say. And if you take a look at them, they're very nice actually. Create the enthusiast created a web version of Windows 10. I mean, they say nice things. If you go over these articles, there's some pretty generous stuff they say. They've taken screenshots. Feels a bit more legit. I haven't found any other ones, but it's cool that I got 4 of these, even if they happen to be languages that aren't mine. There's another cool one. I mean, filled with ads, these websites, but you get the idea. This one here seems to be one of the more popular ones, Gen Beta. I thought it was pretty neat. I was pretty proud of that. And there's a lot of Reddit links here because I've been posting it, like I say, to Reddit to different communities that I thought might like it, and they have liked it, so I've been happy about that, and I've been updating those. Another cool thing I wanted to post here. I don't know if I'm logged in right now. Let me see. Yeah, this is my. Oh, I wasn't logged in. Oh, good. It stayed secret at least. That's nice. So I had Cloudflare, and if you look at my 30-day information for Cloudflare, I actually, which is pretty cool, I actually had 160,000 unique visitors. Like, I'm not sure how unique this unique is, but it's cool to think, like, if I had one of these back in the olden days hit counters, that counter could maybe show, like, almost 160,000. Quite a bit of data passed along, and there's a big spike this day. I haven't been able to figure out what some of these spikes are necessarily. They're hard to track down, some of them, but they're interesting. Now I'm having kind of these little bumps, I guess. That was another cool thing, though, I thought was worth showing. So just getting back to some of the speed tests, too. So this is the online version of Lighthouse. We'll just copy the URL here and try and see. I think we're going to get a different result here. Analyze with... I used to use this thing all the time, though, Page Speed Insights. I used to, at my old job, my e-commerce site I used to work on, this was like the holy grail looking at this thing. So we'll check the desktop here for Lighthouse Insights, Page Speed. And we get pretty decent. I mean, I don't... Oh, okay, yeah. So there we go. We actually got the same score as before. Performance has 100... Just hundreds, I guess. For mobile, no way. Yeah. It's hard to get hundreds on mobile, but I'm pretty proud that on desktop I was able to get 100 for performance. That's insane. If you look, that's pretty much the desktop right there. I don't know how quickly it got to that image, but that's another thing where you don't have all my things are generated. So it's like once you can get those source files, it's just as fast as your computer can take JavaScript and turn it into a picture versus me sending you something that maybe is a larger amount of data that actually is an already created picture. Here's another cool site, GT Metrics. I'd like to see these guys. I haven't been able to get 100 on this one. I don't think it's going to happen today. It'd be cool if it did right now. But I've gotten pretty high scores on them, and I used to check them out for different stuff. I've been able to get most of the stuff resolved. They had I had an issue with my robots file, and at one point there was like a meta tag out of place, that kind of stuff. But it's like at the same time, why not figure out that stuff and just kind of clean it up? Pretty good, 98%. It's not that 100 I was hoping for the video here, but whatever. Sometimes I like to just sit and press retest for hours and hours and just wait. I'm joking there, not for hours and hours, but I'll press 3 or 4 retests just to be like, come on, because sometimes I'll press, you know what started it is just one retest is all it took to get me hooked. Because I think I had like a 97 and I retested and I got 98 and I was like, oh, okay, how far can this go? And I've gotten a 99, but yeah, there's a 99 there. Should we try one more time for 100? Let's just one more shot for 100. I don't even like to do any other thing on the computer. Maybe the stream, I could always blame it on the streaming. Oh, if I wasn't streaming, there's that 1%. It's not the case, though. You're basically just requesting some other server to do all the work, so nothing I'm really doing on the computer makes a difference, but that's just superstition, I guess, that people have with all things. I don't feel like it's going to be 100, though. I got a bad feeling about it being 100. 98, we went down. Darn it. Because of my pessimism. We'll try one more test. I actually haven't tried this one yet, so this is me doing this one on air. I haven't tried this one yet since I've done the worker update. I don't know how fast it'll be. It looks like it's running on a Chrome emulated Motorola G. I actually have a Motorola G. That's funny. But that's a weird one that it decided to run on. I'm not sure how long it's going to take. Test started 13 seconds ago. Got a few messages here I see that I can talk about here. Add Crash Bandicoot. We got Abrar here. Abrar22. Hey, nice to see you. Crash Bandicoot. I'll think on that. Thank you. Another one here, Lachlan Terry. Could you give a quick explanation of how you built the browser? Sorry, I know it's off topic. No, that's okay. I could get into that. Yeah. Let's just see this last test and see how it went. This one's a little information heavy. Seems good. These seem green. Let's say 89%. Sure, I'll take that number. Anyways, I'd like to look into that more, so I will. That was it for updates. That was all I had. So let's take a look at Lachlan's what he's talking about here with the browser. So it's an interestingly popular one here. This is the browser here. So let's say here I can do my browser in browser. People love the inception. Might be able to do more levels of inception now that I've switched to the threaded background. So I could see people getting deeper in with the inception. I've noticed another thing too with Chromium. These iframes have a limit for the URL, but if you just put some arbitrary query string, like blah, like that, you can load more. So let's see on air how deep we can go with this here. I'm going to do the query string trick to just keep getting more websites. And we're going to maximize them. And we're going to finally settle this once and for all. How far can we go with this? And then I'll consider answering how it works. But that assumes I know, good sir. See, I think we can go... Oh, my computer's starting to chug a little bit, actually. I'm starting to feel a little wobble. But it's running. So I think the answer is you can go pretty darn deep. Oh, I'm not gonna... I can still click it? Oh, no, I don't know if I can click the browser anymore. I can't see it anymore. Do I have another way to run the browser? I don't think I do. So that's just, how deep do we go here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that all is basically this one. So this is just one browser. It's got like a bunch more of these fake browsers inside it, which is kind of fun. This is another level deep one. Has this level deep one inside it. It's quite inception-y. So as far as how I do the browser, I mean, and how you do anything with these, you can always just right click to inspect. And we can kind of look at what I've made here. So basically the app is just visually copying Chrome. The nav bar here, I've just copied the visuals. It's all just a bunch of buttons positioned visually. This is like how I have my bookmark bar. As you can see, if I have my bookmark bar open, that's my bookmark bar in Chrome. So I just basically took this as a benchmark to try to copy this to see, this is how it looks for me at home. I'm just going to copy this. That's the basics of that, and then otherwise it's just an iframe. Sorry to make it sound cooler or that it could be something more interesting, but it's just an iframe loading whatever URL it is you request. I do keep track of what addresses are typed in here, so we do have a history. Let's say I go here, and then I go here. We can go back. We can go forward. So I do have a history. I do have some information here that I keep track of too, so you can type, let's say, test, and it'll do Google. The way I'm doing that is that Google actually does allow embedded iframes if you add this piece of URL. So I have to add that. I add that to the bookmark. I have that on the home page when you first open it. And then when you type something in here like test, I just use that same Google, the iframe one. So like if I go here and I type test, the page that goes to is the same. That's another thing is the URL can't update. I can't know in the iframe what you've gone to. That's just the way that the browser's security is. So that's another little thing that we can't copy. But I thought the bookmarks was handy because it gives people ideas what to check out. You can check out the Windows 96 one. Although now it's not working. That's interesting. I feel like it was before. I wonder if he's recently changed it so that you will get an... Yeah, they're all acting a little weird at the moment. That's kind of weird. Oh, yeah. Oh, why is this? Because I'm in incognito mode. Right. Oh yeah, there's some kind of thing about incognito mode with an iframe that it doesn't work correctly most of these demos. That was one thing I noticed. You have to open not incognito mode in an iframe in Chromium for it to get the full experience. Although mine works because of the way the iframe security works. It's essentially the same domain, basically. But mostly smoke and mirrors. It's just an iframe. Typical, it's an HTML element anybody can do. That was it. Thank you guys for checking out my update, guys, girls, everybody. Much appreciated. If you like this video, throw me a like. If you want to subscribe to me, it'd be much appreciated. It motivates me, keeps me going. I'm going to do more of these weekly updates, monthly updates, sorry, I hope. I'm gonna keep making apps like Marked. I'm gonna keep thinking about performance improvements. Making new threads and stuff is always cool. Off the main thread. Not these threads. These threads are all right, but these are pretty old clothes. I wear the same stuff a while. Anyways, yeah, thank you. Throw me a like, subscribe. It's all appreciated. See you in the next one. Goodbye.